Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Just Law on IQRA TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia and I'll be with you for the next hour. As our regular viewers are aware, at Just Law we normally discuss an area of law which is of interest to you, our viewers. But more importantly, on Just Law, we normally take questions on any aspect of English law that you have. On this show, we should be able to cover matters as diverse as immigration matters, family law matters, criminal matters. So whatever your questions are, as long as they relate to English law, please feel free to give us a ring and hopefully I will be able to give you some guidance in relation to that. Just a couple of points before we get going. Obviously it's a live show, so we're not able to take very detailed instructions from you live on air. If it transpires that we need to speak to you and have a more detailed discussion later on, then I'll ask you to leave your number with the control room and I will give you a ring and then we can have a more detailed discussion later on. And secondly, obviously because it's a live show, I'm not able to look at your documents live on air. If it transpires that I do need to look at your documents before I can advise you further, then obviously again I will ask you to leave your number with the control room and then I can make arrangements to look at your documents before advising you further. But as always, we normally pick a topic which is of interest to you, our viewers. Now, looking at what's been going on in the news, looking at what the main issues are at the moment, they really relate to Brexit and the United Kingdom leaving the European Union. And one of the big issues surrounding Brexit is the status of European nationals who are living in the United Kingdom and the status of their family members who are again living in the United Kingdom, or indeed who wish to join them in the United Kingdom. What's going to happen to them? How is the process going to change? This is a topic that we touched upon a few weeks ago, but we didn't really manage to get through that in any detail. So what I want to do today is look at that aspect of immigration law in greater detail today. The situation of European Union members, citizens, and the status of their family members as well. But as always, although we're talking about European citizens and their family members, whatever your questions relate to, whether it's relating to this matter or any other matter, please do pick up the phone, give us a ring on the number that appears at the bottom of the screen. So this is a topic which has been in the news a lot, and shortly, as those who follow this closely will know, there was due to be a vote in Parliament where the government was going to decide, or Parliament was going to decide, whether the country should leave the European Union on the terms that have been negotiated. But today it looks like that's now been put on hold. But it's inevitable that if the UK leaves the United Kingdom, then there will either be some kind of deal or there will be some kind of arrangement made in relation to European Union citizens and their family members. So currently, what is it that the Home Office is proposing? What is it that the government is proposing will happen to European Union citizens and their family members? Well, there is quite a detailed guidance note on the Home Office website which sets out the procedure in a lot of detail. There's also a sort of a brief note as well, which is on the government website, which tells you what is likely to happen once we leave the European Union. So at the moment, the proposed date for leaving the European Union is the 30th of March 2019. So up until then, the current situation as it is continues. So for the last few months, whatever the position is for European citizens and their family members, the current position continues until we reach 30th of March 2019. Now, assuming we do exit the European Union on the 30th of March 2019, these arrangements which have been published and which are on the government website basically kick in at that stage. Now, if it transpires that withdrawal from the European Union is going to be delayed. So the country remains in the European Union for, let's say, 6 months more, which is a possibility. Then obviously these arrangements which are on the website won't kick in at that stage, because the rules which relate to European unions as they exist at the moment will continue for any extended period. But at the moment, based on the country leaving the European Union on the 30th of March 2019, there are arrangements in place which are set out, or the details of which are provided or have been provided by the government. So the key date at the moment is the 30th of March 2019. Up until that date, everything remains the same. The issue then is, if United Kingdom leaves the European Union on the 30th of March 2019, what happens to those who are affected, European Union citizens and their family members, after the 30th of March 2019? Now, there was a lot of uncertainty many months ago when there was a fear that it may well be that people who don't have a right to stay here may have to leave. Indeed, there's a lot of concern surrounding that. But very early on, the government made it clear that whatever happens on the 30th of March 2019, we leave with a deal or without a deal. Those who are in the UK at the moment, they will be able to continue living in the United Kingdom as they are up until the end of 2020. So the whole of 2019 they'll be fine, the whole of 2020 they will be fine as well. Now, at the moment, the proposal is that those who are here already, their family members, they continue with more or less the same rights as exist at the moment up until the end of 2020. So really, in the coming months, during 2019 and 2020, the reality is that there is no change as far as European citizens are concerned and their family members are concerned. Their rights remain the same. So typically their rights are for European citizens to live in the United Kingdom, to study in the United Kingdom, to set up as self-employed in the UK, to have access to the NHS, having stayed in the UK for the required period of time, to have access to benefits, etc. That will continue. And then the follow-on rights that European members have, which is to sponsor their family members to come to the UK, for them to live in the UK, so their spouses, their children, their parents, their grandparents, those rights will continue as they are up until the end of 2020. Now, there are going to be some changes after 2020, but let's look at what the government is proposing should happen in terms of any residence cards which European citizens and their family members need to apply for. On the basis that there is no change up until the end of 2020, that's fantastic news. So there's no imminent changes. But there are certain things that the government is proposing that those who are affected should be doing. And that is that these people should be applying for a confirmation of their right to remain in the United Kingdom. At the moment, there is no absolute right, there is no absolute obligation on a European Union citizen or a family member to apply for any kind of residence card. So at the moment, a European citizen can live in the United Kingdom without a residence card. A family member can live in the United Kingdom as well without a residence card. Now, it may well be that without a residence card, family members may find it difficult to get employment, but the law is that family members do not need to have a residence card at the moment. What the government is saying is that from the 30th of March 2019, a new scheme will open up, and that scheme will basically be for European citizens and their family members to apply for a residence card which confirms their right to continue living in the United Kingdom. And basically, the government is going to provide 2 years, a 2-year period for citizens, European Union citizens and their family members to obtain this card. Now, what is this card that the government is saying that European Union citizens and family members should be obtaining? What is this document? What is this card? It's basically a document which will either confirm that the person has pre-settled status or they have settled status. So these are the two different types of cards that the government is saying that EU citizens and their family members should be applying for from 30th of March 2019 onwards. So to some extent, the position of EU citizens and family members will become similar to other migrants who are in the United Kingdom, in the sense that they will need documentary evidence to confirm their status in the United Kingdom, whether it's pre-settled status or whether it is settled status. And we'll look at this in greater detail in a bit. Now, the government has provided quite a long period of time for EU citizens and their family members to obtain this card. Government has provided over 2 years for people to do that. So there's no need for EU citizens and their family members to rush to apply for this card. The government has provided a time period beginning from the 30th of March 2019 to 30th of June 2021. So over 2 years the government has provided for EU citizens and their family members to apply for this card, which confirms their right to live in the UK, which confirms their family members' rights to live in the United Kingdom. So it could be done at any time in 2019, in 2020, indeed up until June 21. So there's a considerable period of time to apply for this card. Now, what's this pre-settled status, settled status? What is it all about? Now, the idea behind it obviously is that for people who EU citizens and their family members who are, for example, undertaking employment, who are accessing the NHS, coming in and out of the country, there is a document there which confirms what their status is. So it's easier for the relevant authorities, whether it's the NHS, whether it's the immigration officer at the border. It's easier for them to assess whether these people have a right to come into the United Kingdom or not. That's the basic idea behind it. So there are two different kinds of residence cards which will be issued: the pre-settled status one, and the other is the settled status one. Pre-settled status is for anybody who hasn't lived continuously in the UK for 5 years and exercised treaty rights, as in undertaking work or studying for a period of 5 years. So anybody who's been there really for less than 5 years, maybe it's 3 years, 4 years, etc., they will become eligible to apply for this card, where their status will be confirmed as that of having pre-settled status. Whereas those people who have lived in the UK for 5 years, and let's say they've worked in the UK for 5 years, or they've been students in the UK for 5 years, whatever their position is, they will be able to apply for settled status. And that will confirm that they basically have an indefinite right to live in the United Kingdom. Anybody who wants to apply for citizenship later on will obviously need the settled status card. So even if somebody hasn't lived in the UK for 5 years, applies for pre-settled status, they've got that card, that's fine. Once they become eligible for settled status, they will need to apply for that in order for them to be able to go to the next step of applying for citizenship. So one is the position of EU citizens and their family members. That basically remains the same up until the end of 2020. So one is their status remains the same. The second is that they will need to do something, which is essentially to apply for this document, this residence document, which will confirm their status, whether it's pre-settled status or settled status. Now, The reason that the government has provided such a long period of time to apply for this card, whether it's pre-settled status or settled status, is that the government, according to their estimates, are of the view that it could be that a couple of million people, a couple of million European citizens and their family members may have to make an application for this card. So there is a significant number of people who will be applying for this card. It will be sort of unprecedented, and that's why such a long period of time has been allowed for people to apply for this card. At the moment, there is a sort of a pilot scheme running, which applies to I think the NHS staff or people who work for certain public sector organisations, where they're being asked to apply, if they do apply, they're being asked to apply for pre-settled status or settled status. Nobody else can utilise this scheme at the moment. We'll take our next call and we'll return to this topic in a bit. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Ji, walaikum salam. Ji.
Hi, I'm calling from Bradford. My name is Junaid Raza.
All right, okay.
Right. I would just like some information. I just got married from Pakistan 3 weeks ago.
All right, okay.
And I just want to know, like, what paperwork do I have to get?
Okay, all right. Essentially, the main issue where somebody is married abroad and you have to meet this 18,600 requirement, the biggest issue normally relates to finances. Yeah. So in terms of finances, are you employed or self-employed? What's your status at the moment?
Right, I've got another question as well. Basically, where I'm working here, I've got a contract with him.
Okay.
And basically, my boss is playing like funny games. Like, I think he wants me to leave or something because he's got his cousin coming around, basically.
All right. Okay. Okay.
And so I've got some paperwork, but I don't know what to do, who to have a word with. So I just thought I'd ask you because I was told about this program today.
Yeah, sure. How long have you been working for this business?
I've been working for about 5 months.
Okay. And in terms of your wages, do you get paid weekly or monthly?
Weekly.
Okay. And roughly how much is it that you get paid on a weekly basis? Is it roughly about over 355 a week gross?
About 350.
Okay. All right. What you
garage work. It's garage work. I'm a mechanic.
Okay. All right. Okay. What you need to do is, your wages, does it go up and down every week or is it quite fixed?
No, it's quite fixed.
Is it fixed? Well, basically, you need to be on 18,600 per year, which roughly works out to be about 355 gross a week.
Yeah.
That's what you need to be on. Now, what you will need to demonstrate or show is 6 months wage slips.
Right, 6 months wage slip.
Yeah, so you need to be on, if it's a fixed salary that you're on, if it's fixed, you need to be on that 355 a week for a period of 6 months, so 26 weeks. If it's a case of, well, if you do some extra hours, or if you do some overtime, they'll give you some extra money. Then what you can do is you can look at that overtime as well, so you can add in your overtime. But whatever it is, basically, it's going to have to meet the 18,600 requirement over a 6 month period.
Right. So how long do I have to wait now to get the visa going?
If you've been there 5 months, and let's assume that your wage slips are fine for those 5 months, you're going to have to do an extra month. You need a whole 6 months.
Right.
Okay. And now, in terms of your wages, does it get paid into your bank account?
Yeah, into my bank account.
So that's all going to be fine. Yeah? So look, to me, it looks like you're going to have to wait an extra month, and that will mean that you've got a full 6 months of wage slips, and you do need to count how much money you've received. So in those 6 months, as long as you've got 9,300 from your fixed salary from any overtime, you should be okay to apply. So that's the first thing. You need to get your finances right. That's the first thing.
Right.
Now, document wise, there's a long list of things that you need to submit, but in terms of employment, it's your 6 months wage slips,
6 months wage slips,
6 months bank statements.
Yeah.
It's got to be originals or stamped.
Yeah, original ones.
Yeah. 6 months, full 6 months. So let's say you started working July, August, September, October, November, December. It's got to cover the whole 6 months from the 1st of July to the 31st of December. So 6 months wage slips, 6 months bank statements, and an employment letter which confirms that you're employed there, what your salary is, what your role is, etc. Now, if you think that this job may not continue much longer, then what you're better off doing is, if your documents are ready within the next month, get your application in as soon as possible. The reason for that is, let's say you get your wife's application is submitted and then you lose your job 2 months down the line. It doesn't matter if that's the case. You need to be working as at the date your wife's application is made.
Right, inshallah, I'll get that going next month. And I've got another month, so I'll get it going, inshallah.
Yeah, I think that's what you should do, definitely.
Yeah, thank you for your help, brother. Yeah,
no problem at all. Eh? Okay, thank you very much for your
take care. Allah bless.
Jazakallah. Thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay, so just before we had that call, we were looking at the position of EU citizens and their family members, and I was talking about, they're going to have to apply for a residence document confirming whether they've got pre-settled status or settled status. And that's going to be something that starts from the 30th of March 2019, and the government has provided up until the 30th of June 2021 for people to apply for this card. So it becomes compulsory, or the deadline is the 30th of June 2021. So by that time, the application must be submitted for that. So there's a significant proportion of the UK public which will need to apply for that. The estimate is that the approximately 2 million EU citizens and their family members live in the UK. So there is a significant percentage of the population that will need to apply for that card. What the government is saying is that the process is going to be relatively straightforward. In terms of fees, the application will be £65 per person, so it's not a significant fee. As for children, it's going to be £32.50 per child. That's for anybody who's under the age of 16, not under the age of 18, which is a bit unusual. But it's a straightforward application. That's what they say at the moment. They also say is that a sort of the proper IT platform is going to be set up, whereby somebody could potentially make an application using their iPhone, maybe going onto a Home Office app or Home Office website and being able to put in their details, maybe take even the photo can be uploaded. The normal checks relating to employment, such as whether somebody is in employment or not, the government is saying that they will do the relevant checks with the tax office themselves. So it may well be that what the government says is going to transpire to be correct, in that it is a relatively hassle-free process that's going to be introduced. Now, up until now, for whichever scheme that the government has introduced, whether it's for spouses who come here to the UK, whether they extend their visa, whether they apply for settlement, whether it's for European citizens and their family members, we've never had a system which is hassle-free, which is that straightforward. But that's the big claim that the government is making, that, okay, except a lot of people will be applying for this status in the coming years, 2020 and 2021, there's going to be this easy system which potentially you could go on your iPhone and you'll be able to make this application. But really, only time will tell whether it's going to be the case or not. I suspect that it will not be that straightforward. Certainly, there'll be a large proportion of the public who will fall into the category where the case is not straightforward and they will not be able to simply go on the iPhone and make the application as claimed by the government at the moment, but time will tell. Now, in the next few minutes, we're going to be taking a short break. After we come back, what I want to look at is, look at this status in greater detail. What is this pre-settled status? What is this settled status? How will people be able to work out which one they need to go for? What are the conditions which need to be satisfied? How do you then make the application? And what the significance of these different types of statuses are. We'll be back in the next couple of minutes. Inshallah, see you then.